welcome everybody as you're joining. If you'd like to pop your name in the chat box where you're from, and we'll just wait for a few others to join us because I know that we've got quite a few registered today. So if you'd like to just share where you are in the chat box, and we'll just wait for everyone to join us. Okay, everybody, so I'll get started, but I'm sure we'll wait for a few people to come and join us as we go along. So welcome today to everybody to this webinar for ECIS, and welcome Sarah, good to see that you're here and joining us. Just for those who aren't aware, ECIS is the Educational Collaborative of International Schools. It's been established for 55 years as a not-for-profit organisation, and we've actually got over 500 members here in 78 countries, so we're hoping that we'll have a few people with us today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Georgie McIntyre and I'm the Chief Learning Officer for ECIS, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guests today with this webinar. We will be sharing a recording of the webinar afterwards, so if people aren't able to make it, hopefully you're watching it later, and there's going to be an opportunity at the end to ask questions of Matt and Gill. As part of the ECIS community, we've got a number of key partners, and I'm delighted to actually have Making Stuff Better, and they're made up of Matt Hall and Gill Kelly with us today, and I'm a huge advocate of their work and the time and the support that they give to our schools, and it's extremely relevant at the moment. I'm sure everyone will agree that understanding uncertainty is a constant. Matt and Gill are going to share with us today some principles of coaching and talk about some positive psychology and identify some strategies. I think we could all do with a few strategies, and I know, Gill, you've been struggling today with your internet, so let's keep those strategies going.
I've got them very strong, yeah.
I'll just introduce them formally because I've got some notes about both of them, and then I'm going to finally hand over. So Matt believes that people are capable, and I totally agree with him, of far bigger leadership roles and lives than they ever dare let themselves believe. And in his provocative, playful yet humble approach, he brings great trust and energy to MSB. His life as a senior leader in secondary schools in the UK and overseas gave him a deep understanding of what makes engaging learning and leadership. Gill Kelly knows what it means to lead and to learn, and as a former head teacher of 3 different and diverse schools, she brings great creativity, insights and gravitas to those that she works with. Hear, hear. Her soulful yet sassy approach to life is reflected in her fundamental belief in the innate ability of people to change themselves and their setting. I personally always find these sessions such positive experiences, so I would ask you to pop your phones away, and I will also switch off my emails. And this next hour is an opportunity to focus on these principles and hopefully yourselves as well. So please join me in welcoming and handing over to Matt and Gill. Over to you guys.
Great, thanks very much. And let me just share my screen. It's real pleasure to be here, and yes, part of our navigation of uncertainty this afternoon is going to be whether Gill's uncertain internet connection lasts the hour, but if it doesn't, we'll be fine, because today we're here to talk to you about how you might thrive in uncertainty. And actually we've taken the liberty of going a bit further and saying, actually, what does thriving look like? What if this was about using uncertainty as a force for good, but at the same time not feeling limited, fearful, and risk averse? And over the course of this session, we're just going to explore that concept. We're going to think about and look at some strategies to shift away from feeling limited, fearful, and at risk when we're feeling uncertain. And Gill and I are just going to explain how that could work for you and how it can work for the schools that you're working in. So Gill's going to let's start with this much used phrase at the moment. I think I must hear it about 100 times a day. What are we talking about here, Gill?
So, I've literally just come off a coaching call with the leader of an international school in Europe. And there, the COVID pandemic regulations are changing literally day by day. And the guilt that is giving that leader is, what if I make people unsafe? What if I've got that wrong? And what if it changes again tomorrow? Does that make me a really bad leader if I don't know everything about that? And uncertainty, the phrase he used was, I feel like I'm on shifting sands. I feel like I have no certainty, nothing to put my 2 feet fully on the floor on. It feels like it's always moving. And uncertainty, so that's a professional example. But of course you can feel uncertainty in many other aspects in your life. And it could be that you've always been uncertain about yourself. It could be that you've always been uncertain about your value, your worth. And you look for affirmation of that from others. How wonderful it would be if you were completely certain about your worth and you didn't rely upon external affirmation to make you feel, or even to realize that. So uncertainty can be terribly damaging. It can be terribly corrosive, and it can trigger all sorts of inherent and deeply held beliefs of negativity within yourself. The trick is, with uncertainty, is to take it and turn it on its head and use it for something incredible. And this image shows exactly just some of those things. So there's good old coronavirus, our own homes, where we work, our communities, our families, our relationships. We might have uncertain relationships with individuals that we love, used to love, live with, don't live with, are friends with, and so on. And it begs the question, how am I going to get through this?
So with that kind of backdrop, just to give you some structure about how we're going to approach this, we are taking this in the context that whatever's suitable to you, whatever's applicable to you. So the immediate one is the uncertainty of COVID, and what does that mean for my school? But as Gill says, actually, uncertainty is pretty much the only constant we have. Ironically, uncertainty is pretty much the only thing we can be certain of. And I think what COVID is doing is kind of revealing the veil on all the things that are uncertain and temporary. And we like to hang on to the fact that we can control things. And, this global pandemic is reminding us that we're mortal and that we cannot. So we're gonna explore how the role of coaching and the skill set that you find in coaching and positive psychology might help us, not to become more certain, but to be in relationship with uncertainty. And Gill and I are going to give you a couple of ways to do that. And we're going to demonstrate it. So we're going to give you some examples. We'll show what it looks like in each of our own lives. And then there'll be some time for Q&A at the end. But I'm pretty sure that Georgie and Joe are more than happy to continue to kind of field questions in the Q&A section or in the chat. Please don't wait to the end. If you've got an immediate question or reflection, just pop it in there and we'll either respond to it as we go, or we'll save it for the end. And the kind of basis on which all of the coaching that we do, which primarily focuses with leaders in international schools, but not exclusively. Gill and I both today have coached 4 different leaders of international schools separately, I think. So we're spending a lot of our time in conversation. And the best way that we always feel that we describe the coaching process that coaching skills can give to an individual or a school is this idea of coming above the line. So this concept that we go through our lives with a degree of unconsciousness, making choices that we're not thinking about, responding to behaviors that we're not haven't really given much thought to, being triggered by other people's actions or things that happen in the world unconsciously, not deliberately, but sometimes we call it kind of the leader or the school teacher who's sleepwalking, that you're kind of just going through the motions and just doing what you do, and you're not really thinking and reflecting on what those things are and your relationship with them. So the joy of any coaching skill, and this might be one-to-one coaching, or it might be just a very short coaching conversation with a colleague, is that it is about bringing people above the line. So this is absolutely not about changing people's circumstances, although the kind of coaching skill set and approach can really transform people's lives and can lead them to make decisions that really do change their circumstances. But it's not about making the circumstances different for people. What the coaching mindset and skill set brings is people's ability to be in different relationship with those circumstances. And again, we see this all the time at the moment. who no one can control COVID. Our strongest, greatest governments cannot control COVID. We know that, but if we can change our relationship with it and change our perspective with it, then we can come above the line and act from a place of conscious choice. And that's what we're trying to get to. And I think this quote captures it perfectly. So my barn having burned down, I can now see the moon. So we could focus on the fact that the barn's burned down, or we could choose to focus on the fact that I can now see the moon and everything that symbolizes and brings that's positive. So coaching skills in schools or receiving coaching is a really powerful way of being at conscious choice. I'm going to choose to look at it this way. I'm going to choose to feel this way. I'm going to choose to respond this way. And as opposed to, I'm stuck, I can't move on. I've been thrown off the webinar because my internet's not good enough. So let's just look at one particular skill. So in this session, we're just going to look at a couple of strategies. The first one's this idea of what we call reframing or perspective. So we could, with anything, current uncertainty, and as I say, use uncertainty with whatever uncertainty means for you. We might feel that actually we're standing in the shade, that things are blocking out our sunlight, that things are pretty negative. But actually, if we looked at it differently, we might find if we change our perspective, we're not standing in the shade at all. We might find that actually we're in the sun. It just depends on how we look at it. In coaching, this is a term that we call reframing. So it's when we take a particular topic, and again, I can think of a handful of topics that I've dealt with today. Am I going to see my extended family again? Will the school reopen? Will we have enough people in the school to make it financially viable? Will China open its doors sufficiently for us to actually have a full staff in front of the kids? Will we ever have all the kids back in the building? And on and on and on and on and on. But it's when we take one of those topics in which we see it in a certain way, and absolutely inevitably, a lot of people are seeing those topics in a really heavy, negative way at the moment. How am I going to run the school? How am I going to teach this subject? How am I going to carry on teaching science when I can't put them in front of a lab? The list is endless. But reframing is when we take that topic and we find a different perspective on it. So we see it from a different perspective. And it can help you fall in love with that uncertainty. And if you're in a leadership role, with leading again. If Jill's internet survives, Jill's going to give us another example.
I'm here. I'm thriving on uncertainty. So yes, perspective is everything. Yeah, imagine you are taking a photo of a bowl of fruit. So there's the bowl of fruit, absolutely fine. There you go. But if you moved your camera and you changed it, of course you're going to get a different viewpoint. And I hope you've noticed that looks like a smiley face in that photo. So the perspective is everything. It's still a bowl of fruit, as you can see, but it looks completely different. And you can use the same thing with anything, really. Nothing's changed, but only your view. So let's look at this one. If you imagine looking through a window frame into a room, you see the back of a chair. That could seem scary, that could seem unwelcoming, that uninviting, and that might make you want to walk away and not engage. But if you looked at it in a different way, there's someone in a very caring way, sitting, stroking a cat. It's the same room, the same chair, the same person, but a completely different outlook on what you're seeing, and therefore stimulates different brain chemicals in your brain anatomy. You actually feel safe, it feels welcoming, you feel that it's something you want to get involved with. Yeah. So what would you give to have the ability to reframe a negative into a positive in an instant? And when Matt said today alone we've been working with 4 international schools, and all of it is about silencing those voices in our own minds that doubt us, that make us fearful, that make us retreat and move away from situations where actually the fear that you have in your mind is nothing like what it is in reality. In fact, that fear may not even be there. So why do we allow ourselves to do that? Why do we allow our minds to take over our rational thought and become fearful, and to see all things as a threat? The ability to be able to change your perspective on something is crucial in how mature and grounded you are in leadership of self, but also in others. And wouldn't it be wonderful if you could just have that thing where you could just change other people's perspectives? Those of you who are in the old days when we used to be able to be in a school building and walk up and down corridors, you'd have people come up to you, and if you were in a leadership position, they'd say, okay, Matt, what's the plan for I don't know, getting teachers back in from a certain country? What are we doing about that? Well, I don't feel really good about that because I feel really unsafe. And actually, I'm thinking about maybe leaving my job. And if you had the ability to be able to change someone's perspective in just one interaction, one conversation, that could actually keep staff in schools. It would mean that children's education would be uninterrupted. It would mean that the quality would still be there. It would mean that you would be leading with power. So what would you give to change the perspective of others?
So let's show you what we mean by this. So Jill and I are just going to demonstrate a very simple reframe conversation, and we'll demonstrate it and then kind of unpick the component parts of it afterwards. We always believe in our training and webinars to be completely authentic. So I've got no idea how we're doing this next bit. Either I'm coaching Jill or Jill's coaching me, but we haven't planned it. So what do you want to do, Jill?
Why don't you coach me, Matt?
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
My request for you is for you not to disappear for the entirety of this section. Otherwise, I'm going to coach the computer.
I think I'm going to be okay. Yeah.
So yeah, tell me something that you're maybe feeling a bit stuck on, or feeling a bit negative on, or something that just feels a bit clunky or a little bit limiting. Is there something?
It's a really straightforward thing. I've had a day of coaching all day, and my internet and Wi-Fi, I cannot get it to be stable. And if I just had enough time to sit and look at my Mac and work it out, I think I could do it. But I'm feeling frustrated because I don't have the time to do it, or feel I don't have the.
Okay. So I'm hearing that the thing that you're feeling negative about is this about the technical setup of your house, or is it about your inability to sort it out?
My inability to sort it out makes me feel stupid.
Okay. So you're feeling stupid about the fact that you can't fix the internet.
Yes. Very annoying.
Okay, let's just stay with this a minute then. So if this was like a landscape, if this place you're in, this place that feels a bit, I don't know, how does it feel to be in this place of frustration?
I feel like I'm kind of at the bottom of a valley with steep ridges, and I can't quite see the way out.
Okay.
You know, it's all very nice, and there's nice things around me, but I'm a bit lost. I don't quite know. I think it might be over there in terms of how to get out of the valley, but not quite sure. So you feel a bit lost.
Okay. What's around you in this valley?
So you've got river. I used to be a geography teacher, so a river cutting through the valley. Trees, got blue sky. So it's not scary. Doesn't feel ominous. It just, so you've got pretty things around me, but I feel a bit scared. Like, I am a bit scared. I'm a bit apprehensive about being able to get out. So I don't feel terrified because I think I can do it. I just feel it feels like I'm running out of time. Maybe it's about 3 p.m, and I don't know how to get out of the valley, and it's going to get dark. And when it gets dark, I'm going to get lost even more.
Okay.
I feel like I'm running out of time.
So we're kind of stuck in this valley. It's getting dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's autumn here in the UK. The nights are drawing in, and you still haven't fixed your internet, and you're still frustrated. So we're just gonna take a perspective on this. I want you to imagine you've just got into this beautiful, large, hot air balloon, and the balloon's just lowering into the valley, and you're just climbing into it. And I'm gonna spice this up for you. There's a rather kind of strapping, handsome pilot in charge of this air balloon, and just when you say now, the air balloon is just going to rise up into the air. Okay, so when you're ready, just give me the nod and we'll get this air balloon to rise up into the air.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so up we go. It's just rising up and it's moving quickly, this air balloon, and we're going up and up. And we're just at cloud level. And now you're at cloud level and you're looking down on this frustration in the valley, frustration with the internet. What comes up? Just instinctively, just tell me what comes up for you.
Pathways, well, relief. The first thing I felt was relief, kind of being wished up, wished up into the air. I actually even went, I can feel myself exhaling. So
nice. That feels
I
good.
feel relieved. Feel like I've been rescued.
Okay.
Feel safe.
Okay. Okay, stay there. So we're going to go a bit further now. We're going up. We're going to go up further and further. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And we're kind of above the clouds. So there's like a layer of clouds between you and that valley. And that frustration is now all the way down underneath the clouds. What does it feel like here?
Oh, it's lovely. It's serene. It's quiet. Slower. Yeah. Yeah. Distant.
Tell me about the frustration.
It feels very small, like a pinprick, like you're looking back down on the valley bed and it's quite far away. So yeah, it feels very small, insignificant.
Insignificant. Okay. So let's go even further. This is like supercharged air balloon. You can go. We're going to go up into right to the kind of edge of the atmosphere here. Don't worry, you've still been able to breathe. But now we're kind of looking down. You can almost see the curve of the Earth from this point, and the valley's somewhere in that landmass, somewhere down there.
It's not non-existent. It's a grain of sand. It's a grain. It's a grain of sand.
Okay. So it's this tiny grain of sand. And what's the feeling? That's what it is. But how do you feel up here?
It's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It's manageable. It's not a life or death thing. It's just something that needs to get sorted. It feels much smaller.
Nice. So let's stay in this place then, because we're not. Yeah, you're saying it's not life and death, but it's also manageable. It's not gone. So what do we need to do from kind of with this sense of space and perspective? And actually, it's just one thing. It's a grain of sand in the thousands and millions of bits of sand that is your life, or that is even today. What's the next step on this internet thing?
I think I need to make myself a cup of tea. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to calmly, what I've been doing is in between my various things that I've been doing, I've been going online for 5 minutes, finding a solution and only getting halfway through. So I'm going to approach this calmly with a cup of tea and I'm going to look at all the solutions and try them methodically, one by one.
Lovely.
And if it doesn't work, I will phone up somebody to help me.
Okay. So how are we feeling about it now?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's when you're in the middle of a live webinar, you want to be there and ready, but it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. We just did a bit of perspective. We took Gill from where she was. We used the tool that's available to everyone, which is her imagination. All I threw in was the hot air balloon, but it could have been a plane or a helicopter, or she just might have grown wings. It doesn't matter. And then she did the rest. I just asked the right questions to get her to start to see this particular topic differently. And I sense, and absolute hand on heart, this isn't role play. I can't bear role play. I didn't know we were going to talk about that. I just knew that I was going to try that perspective tool. I think I was timing it. It was about 4.5 minutes. What are your reflections on that, Gill?
Yeah, it's incredible what you can do in just a really short time. And just by when you're in it, you feel like your whole body gets immersed by this feeling, I've got to get this thing done, and oh God, I'm so stupid, I can't do it. And it takes over your body. You can feel the tension, and like I feel it in my sternum. And when you just, the power of the mind, just zoom out and go up on the air balloon and look at it differently, you actually feel it drain from your body. You feel that tension starting to ease off. So it takes the heat out of things, allows you just to look at things a lot more calmly and more coolly.
Great. So that's one example. That's reframing, and there's other ways you can do that. You know, you can say to someone, go forward 10 years and look back. You could say, get in your car and drive down the road and imagine that your house is disappearing behind you. You can do it through time and normally through time and through space. You can do it, go outside and look through a different window. What do you see? Just like the examples we gave beforehand. I can see some little red numbers appearing on my screen, which I think means there might be some questions, or maybe it's people saying, can I have a hot air balloon?
Air balloon. There's a really good question from Sarah from Stuttgart. She said, do you find that some people can visualize more easily than others?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Some people can't. I tried something similar yesterday actually with a colleague in Myanmar, and he got to the end of it and said, I can't see anything. Like, literally, some people don't seem to have that faculty, and that's fine. I think so. You can really rely on the senses, and most people will find that they can tap into something. If you can't, another really nice way of doing or using perspective or reframing is to take them to somewhere that they really do know, so they don't need to use their imagination. So another thing you can do is it's called place association, where you just say, just tell me about your favorite restaurant, or tell me about your favorite holiday destination, and you get them to associate with somewhere that has really positive feelings. That, again, as Gill said, it kind of wasn't a mental shift, it was a feeling shift that gets them into a positive sense of feeling. Oh, the beach, I love going to that place, I'm there with my kids. So if you're on the beach, what would you be saying about this internet? And you'll find that there's a difference. So instead of coming at it from the school corridor, we're really busy, this is a stressful conversation, imagine if you were thinking about this thing, on your summer holiday, how would it feel then? So if they struggle to access their imagination, then let them go somewhere that they know, where they don't need to imagine. That's the way around that one.
That's really, really helpful. I think very, very, very powerful. And Nina just really associated with your reflections. She said that she feels the same. Gill, your experiences, and especially in some of the kids that she's teaching as well. So thank you for sharing those. And Sarah says, thank you for your answer.
Great. And on the kids one, complete hard sell here. Look out for a future webinar that we're doing on our Inner Leader program, which I think is in a few weeks' time, again through ECIS, which is where we can talk through. We have a program that we run for kids from about year 9 onwards, an 8-week program where we introduce them to some of these concepts. Again, complete transparency, mainly because we were teaching them to staff in schools, and some of the staff started to say, oh my goodness, how do we give these to kids? And we've got a range of schools in Southeast Asia now going through that program. We'll be delighted to talk to anyone about it who sees that as relevant to their context. Speaking of courses, we are also, and again, this is just, I think this is relevant because quite often when we do these webinars, people say, how do I do this without becoming a fully trained coach or without getting a leadership coach? So we can, if that's whetted your appetite, and we're going to do another demonstration in a minute, we're running an 8-week course with the ECIS on how you might better listen, how you might learn the skill of reframing, and a whole range of other strategies that you can use to both deal with uncertainty yourself, but help others deal with uncertainty. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can find out more about that a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'll do, Matt, is when I send out the email with the recording afterwards, we'll include those links for everyone to sort of access as well.
Great.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So second strategy, and Gill's alluded to this already, is how we might deal with the negative or limiting voices that quite often are very loud when the limbic system, the part of the brain that deals with threat and that tells you to fight, flight, or freeze. So, stay where you are, hold on, freeze, run away, or fight. and therefore produces stress in order for you to do that. You know, uncertainty is absolute rocket fuel for the limbic system, and thus in turn the limiting personas that it creates, because your brain is constantly saying to you, there's something out there, like we don't know what it is. I mean, my goodness, if that's not happening now, then when is it? No, there's a threat out there. I mean, you literally cannot see it, but you're at risk. It could not be a bigger trigger for your limbic system to be going crazy at the moment. You know, don't turn on the news. So this is a really common feature of the human experience. And again, I think Gill and I's experience is that it is becoming exacerbated in the current context. And what happens is your limbic system creates a narrative, which effectively is like a voice in the head. And again, I'm not saying you literally have voices in your head. That's a very different clinical condition. But if we can characterize some of the voices, some of the negative talk that's in our head, it's much easier for us to actually be in relationship with them and do something about it. And we call these the limiting personas, and we've just got kind of 5 examples of here. So again, just to be clear, this is the kind of like negative chat that's going on in the background on a fairly regular basis, but absolutely monopolizes the current context for your worse and its gain. So we're just going to talk through some of these common limiting personas, and because there's a GK in the bottom right hand corner, that means Gill Kelly is going to talk about the first one.
It does.
Our sophisticated system.
So the first one is the perfectionist, and this is the voice that is saying to you, do not do anything that others can see or judge without it being 100% correct. Check everything 100 times. Don't send out emails. Don't ask advice on an idea that's only half formed or half baked, some people call it. And the fear is, of course, that you are going to look stupid because you've not looked at everything in enough detail. What it does is it just holds you back. And what people don't realize is that people love seeing fallibility, because it's human. It's perfectly human to be imperfect, the beauty of imperfection. But one of our very, very strong voices of that holds us back and keeps us small is the perfectionist voice. And it makes you present a form of yourself that isn't truly you. You're not your authentic self when the perfectionist voice is raging. And we have to be really clear. A little bit of perfection is a wonderful thing because we're all striving to be the best that we can. We're talking about a volume control turned up to maximum, raging at you, telling you that you're no good because you've got mistakes and typos, and you think your columns aren't aligned properly and so on. So that's the perfectionist.
Thanks. So one of the other really common, and these quite often work in unison. It's very rare that someone just says they've got one limiting persona that's up loud. Sometimes we call them saboteurs. So there were other ones, the little child voice, and that's that voice saying, don't do anything without someone else's approval. Don't do anything else, and don't do anything until someone tells you to. They absolutely want to stay in their comfort zone and won't step out and go out on a limb. Don't do that because you might get hurt. It might be dangerous. It might be risky. And a bit like the perfectionist is kind of saying, don't do it because you'll look stupid. The little child is saying, don't do it because it's dangerous. Don't do it because, someone will hurt your heart or will make you look silly. So just stay small. And, I would imagine many of you have got colleagues and perhaps leaders, or have had people work for you where you can identify this, the person who, and maybe you can identify it on yourself. I've certainly had the little child really loud before, where you realize you're only trying to get something done so that someone says, well done, or someone says, that's great, you did a good piece of work. And again, like Gill said, small amounts are really important. So we all know that positive praise and affirmation is a really important thing. But if the only reason you are taking an action, getting a job done, is just because so that your line manager or someone you respect and admire says well done to you, as opposed to it being the right thing for the school or the right thing for the kids, or actually I'm just going to get satisfaction from doing this job because I like doing a job well. If you're always waiting for direction and affirmation from others, particularly in this case, the little child is quite often looking upwards with a kind of please see me, please look after me, please approve. Then again, it's going to hold you back. You're not going to take risks. You're not going to do things that you really want to do. You're not going to do the right thing sometimes because you're always looking for approval and direction, and that can be a really unhealthy place to be. And again, the current context is really ripe for people staying safe and staying small and not taking risks. Okay, third one.
The third one, and look at the image there with tentacles, almost like a spider, and then the absolutely exhausted, bandaged up person who just can't move on anymore. The workhorse is the voice that says, look, you've got to be the first one in and the last one out of the office. People will judge you on how many hours you've worked, and your self-worth is equated with how many hours you've done that day. And because you believe that that's how you are seen as a good person. And I do tell this story often, but I used to have a deputy head who came in every weekend, after every weekend on a Monday morning, and wave something under my nose and say, Jill, look, I spent 9 hours on this over the weekend, as if to say, aren't I great? And I said, I'm really sorry, but I didn't want you to do that. And please don't do that in my name. That's something you've done, but that's not, I want you to spend time with your family. So the workhorse will drive you. It's the burnout voice. It's the voice that is saying, don't stop working, keep going, keep putting in the hours. The more you work, the better you'll be seen and the better you'll be able to get things done. Of course, it doesn't. It burns you out. It exhausts you. And you'll be no good for anyone.
It's really, I think it's really timely, this one, Joe. I'm just seeing this all the time at the moment in the work that we're doing. You know, that, you know, I need to be you know, that don't get me wrong, I absolutely know that the constant change in guidance, etc., means that people working in schools are working ridiculous hours. But I'm also hearing kind of small smatterings of, you know, if I just do a few more hours, then the parents will be happy. They'll see that we're taking this seriously. Or if I just do a few more hours, then my conscience can be clear. And you're right, that the trick is not, this is not about not working hard. This is about separating your self-worth from the number of hours. So yes, if you need to do an all-nighter because things are going bonkers, do it. But do not see yourself as a more worthy human being because you're doing it. It's like it's really topical one. And also don't do an all-nighter if that's what everyone else is doing and you feel like you should, because that is the conformist voice. And the conformist voice is that voice that's saying, stay in your box, do what everyone else has done, just stick to convention, don't stand out, just follow and toe the line. And again, in small amounts, the conformist voice is a healthy function. You know, we're not trying to breed a globe of kind of maverick school leaders and school teachers. A little bit of but we want a little bit of that in all of us to come out, don't we? The radical is healthy, but the conformist is when you have kind of got a burning desire to do something differently, or to be a little bit different, or to shape it a different way. Or it could be better if you did it differently, but your conformist voice is saying, don't rock the boat, just stay where you are, don't raise that in a meeting, don't submit that idea, don't suggest that you might teach this bit of the curriculum differently, because, you know, that's not how we've been teaching it for 50 years. And therefore, who am I to rock that boat and change it? And it can be suffocating, the conformist voice. If you stay listening to that voice that's saying you can't do it differently, then it can be really, really toxic. And again, just to be really clear, often the conformist voice is telling us that we can't do things, but it's not based on any evidence. So it's the voice that's saying you can't do that differently, but actually it's not tested it. So it's not responding to the external environment where it's, you know, if someone says to me, I've tried 3 times to change that bit of the curriculum, trust me, that culture's not here. Okay, fine. That's not the conformist voice. That's the culture. The conformist voice is I really feel like we should change the culture, but I don't dare ask. Or I really think, you know, I think they're going to say no if I try and change that bit of the curriculum. Okay, well, that's the conformist voice, because you've got no evidence to say that they're going to say no, other than you're just responding to the negative voice in your head. So being conscious and aware of the conformist voice can be a really powerful way of just kind of breaking out and feeling more free in the work that you do. Finally.
And then one is the Punisher, and this one is brutal. It's the voice that is just saying that you're not good enough. Imposter syndrome is another way of looking at it. the one where you're waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, what on earth do you think you're doing here? Get out of here. Who are you to be working in an international school? Who are you to be helping to keep children and staff safe from COVID? What do you know about that? Someone's going to find you out eventually. It's just a matter of time. And that is so anxiety inducing. It is so exhausting because your limbic brain is completely, permanently on overdrive, looking out for, have they found me out? Have they worked me out? Oh my goodness, I've got away with it for another day. And of course, what it's doing is limiting your capacity to take anything more on. And it's this sense that if you've got a glass of water and it's right up, it's filled up right to maybe 2 or 3 millimeters below the rim of the glass. If you're really listening to your Punisher voice, it could take one thing to fill up that glass of water and it tips over the edge and you're just not your best self. You're not the leader you want to be. You feel like everyone's just worked out who you are and you've just got no capacity or space to take anything on. At its worst, it's very corrosive. There's nothing, of course, on the other end of the spectrum. A little bit of humility is always a great thing. I'm not saying that you have to be arrogant. The little bit of humility is great, as is all of fallibilities and so on. But the Punisher voice is the one that says that you are not worthy and you are not worth of any significance. And the energy we can put in pretending that we don't have that voice raging and putting on a face, the energy to do that could be put into something a lot more fulfilling, like having a great life, like enjoying your job, like being able to coach your colleagues on silencing those voices too. And just having space to go and find a bit of joy. So yes, the Punisher is a very strong one.
Okay, so we're just going to demonstrate. That's kind of all very well. Thanks, Matt and Gill. You've now identified 5 horrible voices in my head. That's the end of the webinar. What can we do about them? But let's just take a pause because again I can see red numbers on my screen, which means comments or questions potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's just really people resonating with those different personas. So Sarah was saying that actually, good grief, she thinks that she's all of these, but then later on she realised that she wasn't the conformist at the end. So that's good to hear. Nina again was saying that she felt the same and that she felt like she was a little bit of everything. I was actually just saying that when we're talking about the workhorse piece, I actually find myself going, I'll just do one more job. And then it's like 8 o'clock in the evening and you're still sitting at your desk. So, and how you get kind of manage those voices. And I know it's me driving it. So just sharing that, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, and just like health check here, they are not you. They are separate entities from you. And the good news is that the first, if we come back to that, we're coming above the line here. We're coming into consciousness. The first step, and then normally the biggest step, is doing what Sarah just did, I think, which is just identifying that they are familiar. As soon as you can identify them, you can be in relationship with them, and you can start to think about what you do about them. So let's just show you how you might do that. We'll give you one or two examples here, and we'll do this again through a coaching conversation where Jill's going to use them, I assume, on me. Should we just swap round?
Yeah, okay. Let's do.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, Matt, what's on your mind in terms of something you might be feeling a bit frustrated, stuck? Yeah.
I'm literally physically stuck. So, and you know this, Jill, but we haven't talked about it for a while. I'm trying to buy a house, and because of COVID and a whole range of other things, it is taking what feels like a lifetime. So it's literally I feel emotionally stuck with it, but I also feel physically stuck. So where I am standing now is temporary home for me and my wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs and a cat that keeps peeing on the carpet because it can't go out. And the house I'm trying to buy is like out this window about 200 meters down the road, and it's just taking forever, absolutely forever. It's driving all of us nuts.
So it's driving you nuts. You're stuck. What are your thoughts there when you think about this house? And is it that you think you're never going to buy it, that it's never going to happen? Is it that you feel stupid for being up there and bringing your entire family? What is it? What's there?
feels messy and not how we planned it. And yeah, there is a little bit that feels, yeah, it's interesting you put it like that. There is a bit of me that feels if we don't, so again, context here, we've kind of moved 550 odd miles to buy this house. And there is a bit of me that feels like I'm going to look pretty stupid if we don't actually pull it off. So yeah, messy, not as we planned it. And yeah, it feels a bit embarrassing in a way. Yeah, that's weird. I hadn't thought about it like that, but it does. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done this. And the reason we came, we haven't even bought yet. We've been here for 6 weeks.
So embarrassed. It's messy. It's not how you planned it. What was the plan? Tell me what the plan was.
See house in Scotland, fall in love, buy, sell our house, move into house, happy ever after. That was the plan.
That was the
do what
plan.
you normally do, which is buy a house before you move. We've moved and still haven't bought a house.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the plan.
So with that voice saying, so the voice is saying, look, it's just messy. This is, come on, Matt, you planned to see house, fall in love with it and move in, buy it and move in. And you haven't. So, well, that's really bad. And everyone is looking at you thinking, what a fool to have gone all that way up to Scotland and you're still not there. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, thanks for that.
Do you think that's fair?
That's the voice. Yes, that's the voice.
That's the voice.
Yeah.
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 So when you hear me say that, and I articulate what the voice is saying, what is your response?
Oh, it's horrid. Just yeah, it makes me want to crumble. Like, yeah, you're right. It's almost like you got me, sussed.
Okay.
So I've been found out.
You've been found out. Okay. So what if this is the plan? What if this was the plan? What is this giving you, this current trajectory, this current existence? What's it giving you?
Well, do you know what? Actually, what's screaming in my head is actually, who are these voices? That's what I want to say. That's what's blurred coming out of my brain. Is so because I've just talked through them, and I feel like I need to clear them first before I answer that question. Which is, so as soon as I say it now, I can hear the conformist. That's not how you do it. That's not what normal people do. Normal people do it this way. So it's like, and again, of course they don't. Like, I was talking to Jo earlier. She's trying to sell a house and doesn't sound like it's straightforward there either. So this idea that everyone else has got their stuff together and does it nice and neatly. So that's my conformist voice. There's definitely a perfectionist that's like, don't let it be messy. And I think there's a punisher there. There's definitely a punisher voice in there as well. It's like a medley, like a boy band of voices having a go, which is, idiot, bloody idiot. Excuse my language. What were you thinking? You absolute idiot. Sorry, I know I've just taken you right back into the negative. So what was your question?
So, well, let's think of what do you actually know to be true about what you're experiencing? What do you know to be true?
So the truth is, actually, we're fine. We're fine. Like, everyone's safe, happy, clothed,
going to school,
housed, going to school. I mean, for goodness sake, we swam in the sea last night, and it's about the 10th time we've swam in the sea since we got here. I'm taking my daughter to football training this evening. She's joined a local girls' club, which she loves. There's no threat here. There isn't a threat here. Like, we've got money and we can eat and we're in a nice house and we're making friends. And if I walk about 4 meters out the window, I'm on the beach.
Wow.
So, and if I think about it from that place, it's just a kind of, like, the messiness is adventure. Actually, it's part of the process. It's not. So I think I keep doing this isn't how it should have been. Whereas actually this is just how it is, and maybe that's just part of the adventure. And I suppose the risk is I end up missing the adventure by spending too much time wishing it were different.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Beautiful.
So because this is a demo and I'm going to fake it slightly, well, not going to fake it, I'm just going to control my coach slightly. Should we just give some other ways in which we might control saboteurs, Jill? Like the most common way that, if I would say to you, actually, this conformance is really loud and there's nothing that you've said to me that helps me make it quieter, what would you?
Yeah. So one way,
advise?
You embody that voice. So you say, tell me what, if this voice was a person, what would they look like? Tell me every detail in glorious technicolor. Are they tall, short, fat, thin, whatever? Just what's the expression on their face? What are they wearing? And then I ask you to drain out the color of this technicolor negative voice. And then the next level is you let them shrink. You shrink them down until these little horrible voices are tiny little grey, black and white people that you can almost flick off the top of your tabletop or kick into the corner of the room, whatever, or cuddle or keep because they've got some value. So that's one way. And you're doing two things there. You're diminishing their vigor, their vitality, and you're turning down their volume so you can't hear them.
Lovely.
That's one way, two ways.
Thanks. And I think, like I said at the beginning, like the identification is almost 80% of the work, because as soon as I started speaking about them, I could just, I can hear now how ridiculous it sounds, but those three voices have been really loud for about the last 6 weeks, and they've quietened down now. Okay. So limiting personas, and again, we've just touched on it relatively lightly, and Jill's just talked about how you might shift them. Again, any questions or reflections in the chat, Georgie?
Yeah, absolutely. We had I think Sarah's just looking for just clarity. So she sort of said, so this feeding back of the voice is like investigating our own self expectations with evidence, and by realizing the voice is perhaps unfair, helps us to recognize and externalize the criticism and befriend ourselves.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Definitely. This moves us on to finding the details of the real, true, reframed story, and perhaps to identifying our own solutions. Is that about right?
Ooh.
Just do the webinar.
Absolutely. I think from my perspective, I could really feel that, Matt, and I could really feel the kind of the sense of almost the relief coming off your shoulders. You were, you could see that you've been clearly beating yourself up about this situation, and it was very powerful to watch. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I feel better. Yeah, it does. They've definitely been loud. Okay, I'm a little bit mindful of time. We're coming up to the hour, so again, I'm just for people who are with us. If you're interested, there's the kind of two examples there. Jill and I, through ECIS, do offer one-to-one leadership coaching, and we are coaching people all around the world at the moment. And do get in touch either with Georgie or Joe with us directly if you'd be interested in exploring that. We could offer a chemistry call without any commitment to take it further, where we could explore those issues in a bit more detail. But as we said at the top of the call, and Georgie's kind of intimated, we are also running with ECIS a coaching through uncertainty course. It's kind of an introduction to coaching, but with this particular context of uncertainty and the skills selected from coaching to apply. And you've seen a couple of them today. And we're certifying that with ECIS. We've run it with a range of schools already, and had some really good feedback. It feels pretty relevant to the current context, and we're finding that a lot of the kind of traditional skills that people rely on and need in schools are now out of date. What you really want is a kind of agile skill set in this time, and it's a really simple overview. It's 8 hours over 2 months. It's 4 one-to-one calls that are live. It's not a pre-recorded course. And then you go away and do some application, kind of 4 hours of live delivery, 4 hours of application with our support. And it will give you the skills to go back into schools or within your own life and have these sorts of conversations with people or with yourself. I don't know if I'm sharing too much information or if I should carry on, Georgie. Is this?
No, that's perfect. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So again, so really clear, it will operate in these times. So we kick it off in a few weeks, 3 to 4 p.m. UK time, and it will stay at 3 to 4 p.m. UK time going forward. So it happens over these fortnightly periods. And if, as I say, it's been tried and tested by a range of people, particularly in schools in the Middle East. They seem to be the ones that have signed up for previous courses with us. And we think it's a bargain. The cost is £350, and we've got limited places available. But if you get in touch and book within the next week, then you can get it for £279. And Georgie's going to send out the links how you do that.
Afterwards, absolutely.
Oh, actually, I'll put it there as well. So if you want to book straight, there's a link, or ping us an email. I think there's also a redirect from the ECIS website as well if you need it. There we go.
Thank you so much, Matt and Jill. As I mentioned, it's always such a positive experience. And Joe's just messaging me saying how much he's enjoyed being on the webinar as well. So that's
good.
Fabulous. Also, I think perhaps we can share, we've got a couple of other sort of shorter webinars, and I think it would be great to highlight again the Inner Leader program for students. Do you want to just mention that again, Matt? Because I think, if you can imagine what you've just been through, and then that experience being shared with sort of students would be hugely powerful for them.
Yeah, so we were creating it with a school in China before COVID, and then it got paused, and then we've created it with COVID in mind. It's an 8-week program that can be delivered over 8 weeks, can be delivered over 16 weeks. Some schools are choosing to do it in drop-down days. And it's a way of allowing students to build their resilience and their ability to self-coach. Exploring limiting personas is one example of the activities in that course. And they're changed slightly for students. The comparators are big one with students. You know, what are my mates doing? Am I better or am I worse? That voice is a really powerful one. So we give them the skills to identify those and to silence them. And it's a very simple model where we're training teachers to deliver the program, and then teachers are licensed for 3 years to deliver it in their schools and join a community of practice run by one of our colleagues who's leading on that. But again, a kind of real personal mission in that one. If I had these skills when I was 14, 15, 16, then I probably could have saved myself quite a lot of heartache on the way. So yeah, we're really passionate about it.
And I think, Matt, it's even more in today's climate with social media and all the images that are sort of out there and everyone's perfect lives. I think that it's really, really powerful. We should be teaching our students how to sort of manage those expectations.
Absolutely. The world's changing very quickly.
So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much. I just want to share 2 fun facts. Matt believes that chocolate should never be messed with and it needs to be pure. And Jill believes that life and learning are far too important to be taken seriously. A giggle solves most things. And I think that's a really good way to end today's webinar. Thank you both so much. As I mentioned, it's always a privilege and a privilege to be with you. Sorry, get my words out. And I'm really grateful, Jill, that your Wi-Fi didn't drop out again. Hey, winning at life. Have a great time, Matt. I hope you enjoy the beach later.
Well, I'm going for a swim.
Good, excellent. And Sarah says thank you very, very much. So,
Great. Pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Take care. See you soon.
Look after yourselves, everybody.
Bye-bye.